Today on Track Anatomy, we're breaking down one of our newer tracks called There Is No Over, There Is No Out, to see what makes it tick. Hello and welcome to another episode of Track Anatomy. If you're unfamiliar with this series, it's kind of like a sister series to my Songs from Scratch series, but in reverse, where instead of building up a song from scratch, we dissect one that I've already more or less finished and take a look at it, take a look at the patches, a little bit of my thought process, and just how the song came about. So this song, it uses a combination of the Moogs as well as the Deluge and even the Lemon Drop and the Zoya. It's using a little bit of every piece of my gear. I still have it patched up on the Moogs, so I thought this was a good opportunity to break the song down before I break the patch down, because unlike things on the Deluge that save my patches, once I unplug all this and start turning knobs, this patch is gone forever. The beauty of analog gear. So let's just play a quick snippet so you guys kind of get a sense of the song that I'm talking about today and see if it's something you're interested in seeing getting broken down. And then I'll go into the various pieces of gear and take a look at how and why I built up the patches the way I did and what made the song all come together. I'll probably start with the Moogs and then move over to the Deluge, and then that should give you a picture of kind of my creative process and how the song all came about. So here's a little snippet. So there you go. You get the basic idea. Let's start with the Moogs. Give me a sec to set up the camera. So this song all started with the Subharmonicon. This is the piece of Moog gear that I'm probably least familiar with. I just kind of dove in and started finding it interesting and making stuff instead of actually learning how to use it, which can be detrimental. And one of the things about it that I was starting to notice in using it is that I start getting patterns that all kind of sound the same, or timbres that all sound the same. It can start sounding like an organ really quick, right? This is a pretty common sound. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to make something that didn't sound like that, something totally different that just had a weird flavor to it. And on top of that, the thing that I really wanted to do was create, most of the times when I've been making songs using the Subharmonicon, I use it to complement stuff that I've built elsewhere, and I kind of wanted to do the opposite. I didn't want to think about a key signature or notes. I just wanted to make something that sounded cool and a pattern that sounded cool, and then build a song around that. So this is kind of what I came up with. And what I'm doing is I find kind of right in here, for most of the song, it's kind of in this area. And what I'm doing is I'm using reverse voltage on the VCF on the filter, which is making it, I don't know, it just gives it a weird, it basically goes from up to down instead of down to up when it's turning the cutoff. And it just gives it this weird, I don't know, it feels like underground. I don't know, it just felt really cool. So this is kind of what it all started with. And the other thing I'm doing with this is I'm running it through an ambient glitch patch on the Zoya, which kind of sounds similar to what the hologram microcosm does a lot, and it sounds like this with it on. Instantly cooler, obviously. So this was the basis. I built this patch first, and I just was twisting knobs and finding chords with the subharmonics that sounded good, and just kind of went from there. The secondary part that I have on it with the second oscillator, I'll turn these ones down so you can hear it better. Just has this twinkly kind of thing. Then I'll turn this on and off and bring it out and in certain parts just to add a little extra texture. But for most of the song, it's just this. And all I'm doing is using this to control how open the cutoff happens. If I get too close to middle, I start hearing the second oscillator a lot more. So for most of the song, it's just hanging out in here. And then the second thing I did, just to kind of add a little bit of structure to it, is I added a kick and side stick pattern on the Deluge. That's this. And that just makes it instantly feel like the pattern's not totally random that's coming out of the Subharmonicon. It makes it feel like it's starting and restarting somewhere when you have that 1 and a 5 kick, just the 4 on the floor. So that's what started it. After I got that kick pattern, I moved on to the DFAM, so let's check that out. So for this song, I didn't really want the DFAM to be the star of the show. I wanted it to act as kind of what I bought it for intentionally, which is to add texture to an existing beat. So I already expected that I would be building my beat on the Deluge, sequencing it over there. And I just wanted this to be kind of an extra textural element. I built it directly on top of the pattern. So I'll play it first with the Subharmonicon pattern and the kick, because that's exactly how I built it. I built it in real time. And then I'll kind of break it down and show you what we did. So here we go. Oh, wait, make sure we turn it on. Okay, there we go. And I built it in such a way that I'm mostly controlling it with the filter. I'm sending its clock to the LFO rate of the Mother 32, and then using that to modulate the Mother 32, which we'll get into next. But for the most part, I'm just controlling it with the cutoff here. It's just the kind of patch that I can control with the cutoff and add a little extra texture here and there. So here, let's take a look at this. I'm gonna turn the volume down on the Subharmonicon, and I'm gonna turn off the kick. So what I have happening is I have it so that the only thing that the pitch knobs are affecting are VCO2, which is my second. So that's giving that right? You can hear it more when I open up the filter. But if I just want the kick, I can turn it down and you're not really getting any of that. So I have it, it's mostly on the 1 and 5. I do have some other ones because if you don't have velocity, you won't hear the pitch changes. So it's kind of like ghost notes that just add a little texture. Then I have a little bit of noise so that when I open up the filter a lot, because I have pitch controlling noise level as well. So that gives it kind of a little snare here and there. And I tried to kind of, when I pitched these, since I was doing it live, I was twisting the pitch knobs so that they kind of matched with the Subharmonicon, more or less. I'm not going to go so far as to say it's in tune. It doesn't really matter because it's percussive, but it's close enough, and so it doesn't sound like it's crazy. And for most of the song, this is all I'm doing. I'm just turning it up. Stuff like that, just adding a little texture. Even just with the Subharmonicon, it sounds great. And I do also have this guy, I also have the DFAM running through that same ambient glitch pattern. I do have the DFAM running through the same ambient glitch patch that I have the Subharmonicon run through. Let me add the kick back in. And on different parts for fills, or ramps, I might do something like this. That's it, man. That's it for the DFAM. Let's hop over to the Deluge, huh? Yeah, pretty simple. But this thing just sounds so killer. All right, let's hop over to the Deluge and start breaking down where the meat of the song happens. Once I got the Subharmonicon going with the DFAM and that kick pattern, I felt like this song was mostly going to be a rhythmic song. So I didn't even know what I was going to do with the Mother 32. We'll hop back to the Mother 32 later once we get to the part that I made for it. But it was really the last part that I wrote on this whole song. And it happened after I kind of arranged it and felt like I needed one more thing. And I finally found a use for it. So I hopped over to the Deluge and I knew that this song was going to be probably more rhythmic based. So the first thing we did, here's our kick. we'll just start with this. And I mean, that's simple. I got, this is actually a stock patch kit. It's the number 10 XV580 kick and side stick. I'm adding a little bit. Side stick's definitely got some verb and some delay. And I think the kick has quite a bit of reverb. But that's about it. I didn't really change it. I love that thud. And it just added body to what I was doing with the DFAM, which was, of course, this. Right? Boom. So the next thing we did, to build on top of that, I wanted to add some bongos and some kind of percussive elements to go with that. And this is all filtered out and very tweaked out, but here was the pattern. So you can kind of hear a couple of the drums are clear, but a lot of it is just madness. And I added some reverb or delay. This is like a resampled bongo beat that I just totally tweaked out. And when you add it with the kick, and then add the DFAM. Actually, don't add the DFAM because it's not synced right now. So those are the first two elements, right? And then I got this because I figured out that the key was kind of F sharp, and this is just an F sharp chord that we filtered out with an LFO to sync. Right? And again, that's just a sample that I've tweaked out and broken apart. And then I felt like it needed some bongos, so I added these guys. And I don't use all of these parts everywhere, but when I'm building up a beat, I like to kind of see all the textures layered on top of each other so I know how they're going to work together. And then the last, for the main beat, we'll just throw this in. Hats and claps, baby. But all those elements on top of each other, I mean, they sound pretty sick. And then when you throw that in with, let me reset the DFAM and the other guy. Okay. So when we throw that in with the Subharmonicon and DFAM, we get this. So that was the basis for the whole song. Obviously, the next thing that we need, if we're gonna add anything, is we need bass. So here's my bass. When it wants to come in. And I'm just going down the F sharp. It's not really minor, and it's not really Dorian. It's somewhere in between. Kind of made my own scale, but it felt right. This is my own sample. It's a multi-sample patch. It's a DX100, and it just sounds so sick. Sounds like Knight Rider or something. Bring that in with the and for a long time, this is all I had. This was the whole song. Ugh. It just sounds so sick. There's not much to it. And I kind of felt, in building up this song, it was my feeling that it really didn't need that much. I wanted to try to keep this one fairly sparse and then figure out clever ways in arrangement to make it all work. This is, okay, yeah, so this is the next part that I made, and I love it. So I'm going to turn down the Subharmonicon and everything else for a second. Why don't we even mute all these out? It follows the same chord progression as the bass, and it's just this really cool patch from the Lemon Drop, actually. Sounds so creepy. just kind of scratchily. And with the bass, go like. There you go, all together, right? Let's start bringing in some of the drums. This is the basis for the whole song. The only other things I did, and we'll get to them next, is I just added some melodic parts with these guys. This is the next part I added, and it's a mini Moog multi-sample that I have. This is the first kind of melody line that I wanted to introduce. This is my own mini Moog sample. Let's check this one out a little bit, because I did do some pretty clever things with it. This one, I definitely got a little bit crazy with arranger view, or not arranger view, sorry, what's that called? Automation view. And I just tweaked the heck out of this sound. I just broke it so it sounds fuzzy, and I wanted it to sound like it was kind of breaking in places. I don't know if I'll be able to find everything I did. Let's take a look, see if we can find it. I don't even remember what I did. But I definitely automated a lot of the bit crush and some of the not the LFOs, the cutoffs and things like that, just to make it sound like it was kind of breaking. And by itself, you can really hear it. You hear it fuzzing out and doing weird stuff. But when it's with the rest of the track, you don't really notice it. So that's the main melody. And then what I wanted to go with that is I wanted a similar sound that provided a counter melody. And that one is going to be a Boards of Deluge patch. I think it's from Boards of Deluge 5. And it's kind of similar sound as the mini Moog. It's kind of a bell sound, but this is a counter melody. So the two melodies play off each other really nicely. Now that's pretty much the whole song. The last thing that I did was, after I got into the arrangement view, that's when I realized I did want to try something with the Mother. I found with the Mother 32 that what I tend to do is I find that most of the time I'm using it for bass, sometimes leads, but really mostly bass is what I've been using it for. And I wanted to do something different. I felt like I really needed an arpeggio, and I looked through the Deluge and played with some of the arpeggios, and the Boards Deluge have some, the Rephaser pack has some, but I just wanted to create my own arpeggio and see. It's a monophonic synth, right? So it's kind of weird to be able to do chord-based arpeggios on it, but it totally works. So this is the arpeggio that I came up with on the Mother 32. We'll hop over to the Mother 32 and I'll show you how I patched it up in just a sec, but this is what it just sounds like kind of on its own. It's just so awesome. Sick, right? So let's hop over to the Moto 32 and I'll show you how I have it patched up to get this sound. But I just thought it was cool that, you know, I could do chord-based arpeggios on the Moto 32 by sequencing it on the Deluge. I mean, it is only playing one note at a time, but the way it's selecting notes is through a chord. And that's pretty cool for a monophonic synth to be able to do that. Maybe they all do that and I'm just an idiot. Let's go check out the Moto 32. All right, here we are on the Moto 32. Now I'm controlling it via MIDI from the Deluge. You saw that I sequenced it over there. The only things I'm really doing is I started with a base of a saw wave, but I'm actually running the VCO pulse wave to the external audio. And then I've got the mix so that I'm getting a little bit of the pulse wave combined with the wave. So it's kind of acting like it's giving me two voices only, even though it's only giving me one. I have the filter is on a per note basis is controlling the pulse width. Oh no, it's controlling the frequency. I thought I was controlling the pulse width. I have a little bit of pulse width on there, so when you hear the square wave, it gives you a little bit of tweaking when it's modulating it. And then yeah, I just have a little bit of frequency to give you a little bit of vibrato, very lightly, so it's not changing it too much. It's just enough to give it a kind of a sound of a vibrato. Let's see what else we got here. So I'm taking the LFO rate from the DFAM, so that's how I'm getting the tempo. So it's a tempo synced LFO rate, which would be tempo synced with the song. And then I have the LFO triangle going to the mix CV. What am I doing here? Oh, interesting. Okay, so I'm using the keyboard to control the VCO mod, which is this amount over here. So it's adjusting how much that knob's twisting. When it's going, the VCO mix is controlling the cutoff. So I'm using this to attenuate how much of the cutoff is there. Because if I let it go with the LFO, it'll just turn this all the way off, all the way on pretty much. So I'm using that to kind of attenuate the range that the LFO is tweaking it. And that's about it. I have it on, it's on octave 4 here, so it's not too crazy. Using the LFO to control the filter, we already discussed that. That's about it. And here's what it sounds like once again, when it's all said and done. And I also have it running through the same thing that all the other ones are running through, the ambient glitch on the Zoya, just to give it a little extra texture and body. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. That's the whole song. Why don't we do a playthrough and you can just kind of hear how it all came together. I'll do a sort of a performance, and yeah, you can hear what it sounds like all put together. I hope you learned something. I hope this was informative or at least interesting. If it is, you know, give me a comment, give me a like, give me a sub, whatever you want to do. I'm putting up lots of synth and Moog and Deluge based content. So if this is something that you're interested in, if you like seeing how the creative process comes together, how the songs come together, I do a lot of that. Thanks for joining me. Let me get you a better view and we'll do a playthrough on the song. And I hope you guys have an awesome day.